Hello and welcome back. This is Barrett from the C4 Cyber Club here at Cypress College. And in this lab, we are going to cover the Security Plus Lab series, Password Cracking with Linux. So we're going to be covering tools like John the Ripper, Hashcat. We're going to do some basic Linux account management, things like create users, create some new groups, create passwords for those new users. And then we will attempt to crack those passwords using John the Ripper and Hashcat. We'll talk about hashing, dumping hash files from a Windows machine and how the hashes slightly differ, all that kind of stuff. So let's go ahead and get into it. If you're following along at home, you'll want to load up the Kali machine. And the first thing we'll do, we'll open up the terminal window and we're going to create a couple groups. So you can see down here, we're going to create a group seniors. We're going to create a group called juniors. We're going to add a couple different users in each and then assign them a password. So first we could take a look at, we could type out cat etc group to view the current group file. So these are groups that currently exist on the system. And you notice the juniors and seniors group are not on this list yet. So we can go ahead and add them by doing group add juniors and group add seniors. Now, as long as you type this out correctly, you won't get a response. Basically, this means you did this correctly. But we can verify that they've been added to the group file. But instead, see here, if I press enter, it's going to list out the entire contents again. Now we do see that juniors and seniors groups were added. I'm going to go ahead and clear the screen here. But let's say if we just wanted to search the group file for only seniors. So remember, we can pipe this command. We could take the output of this cat command, pipe that into the grep command, which, remember, this searches for a particular word in a file. So we're going to search for seniors. So you notice that displays only that line. And we could do the exact same for juniors. I'm going to press the up arrow, which is, remember, a handy Linux tip for cycling through your past history of commands. And I'm just going to change that seniors to juniors. And you notice that grep returns only the juniors line. And the numbers that you see here, these relate to the group ID. So juniors was created first, so it got the 1001. Seniors was created next, so that received 1002. And if we happen to create another group after that, it would just continue down the line. It would be 1003, 1004, etc. All right, now let's take a look at where users exist. So users are in the etc password file, and that's PASSWD. There's no O or R in password there. Okay, so looking at this, we don't see the users ultimately on this list here: Elmo and Oscar, Lisa and Homer. So these we need to create. And as we create them, we can add them directly to the new groups that we created. So Elmo and Oscar are each going to be added to the seniors group. So we could say user add Elmo option G or -G seniors. So as you can guess, the -G is for group, and it's going to assign this new user add to the seniors group. And we'll do the same for Oscar -G seniors. And we could do the same for the other group. So we're going to add Lisa to juniors. And we're going to add Homer also to juniors. Okay, Now, if we take a look at that Etsy file or Etsy password file again, we now see these 4 new users have been created. So we have the username. X is basically just saying the password exists in another file, which we'll get to next. It exists in the Etsy shadow file. This is the user ID. This is the group ID. And this is the home folder. And this is the location of their shell. All right. So let's take a look at that shadow file. I'm going to go ahead and clear the screen with Control L. So let's cat Etsy shadow. Now you may think that the Etsy password file, it sounds like it would keep passwords, right? It did once upon a time, but now it is strictly for the users or the usernames. But the shadow file, this is where the passwords are kept in a hash format. So it's an encrypted password. But you notice here we have these new users. They have this exclamation, and this is telling us that no password has been set yet. If I scrolled up, a lot of these users you see here are actually service accounts. But here you see the root account, and this here is the hashed password. So that is an encrypted hashing algorithm. So you'll see that once we set passwords, we're going to see something very similar for these 4 users. So in order to do that, we just do password, PASSWD, and we'll start with Elmo. We will set 123123. We have to retype it. Okay. Now we'll do password Oscar. His is going to be San Jose, all one word. All right. Password Lisa is academic with a 1 instead of an I. Password Homer is Acapulco. And yep, so that's all of them. So now, let me go ahead. I'm going to press up a couple times. Let's cat Etsy shadow now. Okay, so we see everything in the shadow file, and now we see all of those hashes. Now the lab also points out a really useful command here. So we could use tail, which is, this is essentially only going to show us the last 4 lines, the tail end of this file. And we're saying we only want the last 4 here of the Etsy shadow file. So you can see that only displays the most current, the last 4 added users, and we have their hashes as well. All right, so now that we've added the users, we've set passwords, now we have those hashes for them. Let's go ahead and check out John the Ripper. So we can, as usual, get help on a new tool that we're using. So I encourage you to read through these different options, get a feel for what it can do. You know, we're definitely going to be working with a word list. So this is an option that we need to set when determining where a word list is located. And yeah, so that is the next command. So we'll run John, and we're going to say we want to crack the Etsy shadow file using this word list that's located in TMP folder, TMP/word list folder, and the name of that file is pass list. Okay, so that was very quick. You notice that it cracked 3 of them. Interesting that it only cracked 3. It seems like it's missing Lisa. Oh, that's interesting. it looked like in the lab document, that really looks like a 1. So if you're following along with this, if you haven't potentially done this yet, that is actually just an I. I'm not going to rerun it because I know it would probably find it, but you know, it looks like we evaded this password list. So this pass list is a good kind of surprise example. This password list obviously had the word academic in it, but it did not have a word academic with the 1 replaced for the I. And that's a common practice that a lot of people do, that, you know, they replace numbers with, or I'm sorry, they replace letters with numbers. That used to be kind of recommended. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that anymore. There are a lot of ways to get around that, and there are password crackers that will automatically test the different number options for those letters. So anyways, I digress. So we see that it cracked these pretty quickly. Whoops. Now to explain what's happening here, because hashes can't be decrypted, so this technically what it's doing, it takes this pass list and it generates the hashes for it, and then it matches it with the hashes it sees in this file. So as long as it finds a match, then it knows, okay, well, this is obviously the password, because both the hashes of this in the pass list and the hash that was in the shadow file match. So that's how it's able to distinguish that this is the correct password. All right. So now we're going to take a look at a file that already exists on, wow, what is going on with the terminal screen? Let me restart this. Okay, there we go. That's a little bit better. Weird little glitch in NETLAB. Okay, so in here, in this temp hashes folder, we have win hashes. So consider this as maybe an attacker was able to backdoor a Windows machine, and they were able to dump the hashes, the password hashes for that machine, and they've saved them. So if we cat out this file, we see a list of hashes. So we need to parse out what's called the NT hash from this, which is the second part to the right of this colon. So we could do some more fun command line here to parse out just that section that we need. So if we did cat win hashes again, grep that to a command called awk. And now what this does, let me go and type it out first, and then I will explain. Okay, so remember, we're running cat win hashes, which gives us this output up here. But instead of sending all of that to the screen, remember, we're piping it. We're sending that output into the awk command. Now this -F, it's saying, I want what's called a delimiter or field separator. And this is going to be the colon. So anytime that this colon exists, which you see it does exist here, here, and a few more times, all in each line, it's going to go line by line. Each time that exists, it separates these almost like columns, kind of like you're then looking at a spreadsheet, right? So here's column 1, here's column 2, column 3, and technically there's 4, 5, but they're just blank in between there. And now when you see this print $3, this tells you, well, print column 3 only. So this is $1, $2, $3. So when I hit return, you'll see we only get this section here. right? So even all the way up here at the administrator level. So this is our NT hashes. This is what we need for cracking. Now, we displayed that out on the screen, but we actually need to put that into a file. So I'm going to press up again to bring up that same command. And remember, we can also redirect output with the greater than sign. So we're going to redirect that into a file called NT hashes. And now if I do ls, we see next to this, the original win hashes, but now we see the NT hashes. If we cat that file out, we see that those are exactly what we need. So now we can use a program like Hashcat. Let me get help on Hashcat. So interesting thing about John the Ripper, it actually auto detects hashing algorithms, whereas Hashcat does not. So when you see this -M1000, this is actually referring to the hash type. And because we know that these are NT hashes, we set the hash type to this NTLM or 1000. So that's why you see -M1000. So let's go ahead and run a Hashcat on this. Set the hash type. Then we tell it the file. Remember, the file name is NT hashes. And we then give it the location of the word list. So we're going to use the same word list or the pass list that we did before. And you could see these are all of the passwords. So if you'd have to basically match those with the username for each of these hashes, but quick enough. Took under a second to pull that. And remember, it does the same process as John the Ripper. It compares hash values to the pass list. So it generates hash values, and then as long as it matches this, it will, give you these verified results. All right, so that covers cracking in the command line with John the Ripper and Hashcat. So now in the final section, we're going to actually show how to obtain a shadow file, and then we're going to crack that using a GUI version of John the Ripper. So what we need to do real quick is start up the FTP server on this DVL machine. So we need to log in. And then once you get to here, we just type in pro FTPD. And that's just going to launch an FTP server. Give it about 30 seconds to load. All right. And once you get this prompt here, remember in the lab, it says ignore the IPv6 error message. Once you get this, you're good to go. We'll just go back to the Kali machine. Bring terminal back up. And we're going to FTP into this machine. All right. So once you're asked for the name, let's pretend that we're the attacker. We've obtained these credentials for this server, and we're going to go ahead and log in through FTP, see what we can find. So know that the login name is roots, the password is TOR. So once we're here, we could say, okay, print working directory, we're in the root directory. Let's move into that Etsy folder, and let's see if we can get the shadow file. All right, and we were successful there. The transfer is complete. So at this case, we got what we needed. So let's go ahead and exit. And I'm going to clear screen. Now, if we move into, actually, it's probably in this folder right here. Yeah, so in the lab, they're in the temp hashes folder. Doesn't necessarily matter if you're in the root home folder like I am here, that's fine. As long as you have this shadow file, right? And if we cat that out, we can see that these are the hashes, and specifically one for the FTP admin. That is the hash right there. Okay, that's what it's showing there. All right, so let's go ahead and load up Johnny. And you'll notice that this launches a GUI version. So first thing we want to do, let's load our password file. And we want to move to the temp folder. And actually, if you followed the lab and you're in the temp hashes folder, that's where it will be in there. Mine is saved in the root folder, but essentially you're looking for that shadow file that you just got from the FTP. Okay. All right, so that's loaded. We see it conveniently loaded in a nice spreadsheet form. Now, if we go to options, we want to switch to wordless mode. And let's go ahead and load a word list. If we move to temp word lists, we're going to go to use the same pass list that we've been working with, right? And it's pretty much as simple as that. We'll go ahead and start the attack. Then we move back to passwords. And then you see this list has been updated. And it matches the password with the user and the hash. So once again, same thing happening in the background here. It is generating hashes based on the pass list and then matching them with these hashes here. Great. So that concludes this lab. Security Plus Lab series, password cracking with Linux, John the Ripper, and Hashcat. Thanks a lot for watching.